Scooter K, maybe instead of raising debt, something we should be cutting to fit the budget. Okay, people always talk about let's cut things, let's cut this, let's cut that, let's cut this. I mean, I'm sure there are places to cut, but any meaningful spending cuts will have to come from vertically integrating government services, meaning not using subcontractors to do what the government could do. That's how you want to save money, right? And doing that then leads to what people call socialist programs, which most people want to cut the government, don't want anything to do with socialist programs. And by that, I mean you have federal construction companies, right? Rather than going, hey, we're going to build this section of highway. We need bids from contractors to build this highway. It means we just go out and we build the fucking thing using government employees to go out and just build the bridge, build the highway, build whatever. It is way cheaper. It's way quicker. And again, everything's get done lickety split. Doing things like, having army cooks cook food for the army again and not paying KBR $100 a meal at some off-site base to do the same thing the army cooks did for 100 years. Like those are the ways you cut funding. You have nationalized companies do a lot of this stuff that right now we have federal contractors do for us. Okay, good luck getting that through Congress with the power that federal contractors have at lobbying. Probably not going to happen anytime soon. The other problem is that we're in the middle of inflation, right? So everything costs more, which means the gallon of gasoline for you costs more. The U.S. government is the single largest purchaser of fuel in the entire world, which means it costs a whole hell of a lot more for them. They've got fucking battleships and aircraft carriers and planes and tanks and all sorts of things that they've got to have fuel storages for. Things just cost more. So the idea of, we can just cut funding does not change the fact that the United States is the single largest purchasing power in the entire world. 1/4 of our entire GDP is what the U.S. government spends on. So we cut prices, we cut costs. That means you're looking at hundreds of thousands, millions of people suddenly out of work because the government contract isn't coming through anymore for them to build that thing or provide that service, which means the economy is going to crash even more, which means we have to borrow even more than we were in the first place. The solution isn't cutting costs. The solution is taxing rich people. Rich people benefit more from the system than anybody else. They design the system so they can benefit from this, right? Their shipping logistics benefit from our weather satellites, our GPS, our government paid for ports, our subsidized railways, right? Their workers are trained by our educational system. Their transport goes on roads built by our tax dollars, right? So the risk to their investments are minimized by the fact that we've got police and regulators and fire departments and insurance commissioners and all sorts of things. So they're benefiting the most from this system, so they should pay in more. But instead what we have is we've got $400 trillion that they've offshored, that they've hidden in tax shelters around the world, so they don't have to pay the taxes that pays for the system that benefits them the most. So, tax them. Tax the shit out of them. We control the ISDA. We can reach into those accounts and just take their money from them and go, okay, I'm going to take this money out of your account in the Caymans, and I'm going to count it. And I'm going to take 37% of it. You can have the rest. Done. Tough shit. We have the power to do that, man. And we should. And maybe, just maybe, we get some of that money. We stop having a deficit. Maybe we could pay for things like high-speed rail, right? How many of you in the chat I mean, the Europeans are probably all asleep right now, but how many of the chat have taken a train in Europe or Japan or China or India for that matter? Like, do you know how wonderful it is to be in a walkable city and taking the train places? Dude, it's awesome. You can be like, hey, I'm going to go from this town to that town for $4 and I didn't have to drive anywhere. The train station is right there. My connection's right there. And I'm there in 30 minutes. Got to sit, have a drink, look at mountains go by. It is just freaking awesome. And every single solitary state in America at one time had a train system like that. You used to be able to go from New York City to Chicago on nothing but streetcars, right? You could take streetcars from New York City into New Jersey, switch to another streetcar system that connected to Philadelphia, switch to a streetcar system that take you to like freaking, Scranton, which would take you to, I don't know, wherever else, and you get to Pittsburgh, and from Pittsburgh get to Cleveland, from Cleveland you get to Toledo, from Toledo you get to, Gary, from Gary you get to Chicago, and you would get your way across the entire country on nothing but streetcars. We destroyed it all. We let car companies, Firestone, General Motors, destroy that entire system in the 1930s to the 1950s, and they just pulled up all that rail line, paved it, and had us buy cars. They bulldozed entire neighborhoods, put in 20-lane wide highways with giant clover leaves, and cool. Now we've got huge highways everywhere. You want to go to the grocery store, it's a 30-minute drive. When, you can, it's just, we could do things so much better. But because we have such an unfunctional government apparatus, because our Constitution was like the first, and we really didn't think about the consequences of how we created our party systems, and we wanted to give these slaveholding landlords so much more power than they ever deserved, and just makes everything so hard to accomplish good stuff. So no, the solution is not cutting spending. The solution is to tax the rich people to pay for the spending we've got to do. Because who benefits the most from the spending? The rich people. Who got $1 trillion in free money from PPP? The rich people. Who got $2 trillion in free money from tax cuts in 2018? The rich people. What did they use that money for? Stock buybacks, baby. That's what they used it for. We gave $2 trillion in tax cuts to rich people, and they did $2 trillion in stock buybacks to artificially inflate the value of the market. It's there are ways to fix it. It's just that we won't ever do it. So maybe we should look forward to imploding the entire global financial market with defaulting on the debt, because after half the population murders and eats each other, maybe something new and beautiful will come out of it, kind of Star Trek style or something. Oh, okay. So I guess your second part of your comment got eaten. Okay. After a while, people realized we don't actually need as much money as we had, and we hit a giant reset button in the economy, and we move after making sure this doesn't happen again. It's an optimistic way of looking at it. I mean, once you hit rock bottom, it's either status quo or you build something new out of it. And humans like to build something new if we can, because it's, unless we have like an oppressive, totalitarian dictatorship, making sure we're down the dumps, which, cool. I always find it interesting that the more wealthy a country is, the more wealthy the wealthy are, right? And if you got a really impoverished country, yes, there's a huge gap between the poor and the super wealthy, but like the super wealthy in those poor countries could be even wealthier if the poor were actually middle class and higher. So Some of the greatest wealth building the United States ever did was between 1993 and 2000. Those 7 years where we brought the middle class up for the first time in like 20 years made the ultra wealthy filthy rich. Like, everyone was going, woohoo, we're going together in this. And then we did a bunch of tax cuts again and tore the base out of that, and everything just went to shit. Just tax the rich people. Just tax them. And if they try to move elsewhere, just take their money from them anyway. Who cares? They moved elsewhere. We'll take your money from you. The army of the Cayman Islands going to make us sure we can't do that? No. So just do it. All right.